kids, have you heard of Skull and Bones? You know, that fantastic Ubisoft game that was supposed to be the next Assassin's Creed Black Flag? I think it's pretty clear at this point that Ubisoft want to cancel the title, but here's why it's impossible for them. They just can't. Skull and Bones has been delayed again. Do I sound like a broken record? This has got to be the 5th or 6th time. It started off just as an expansion for the game Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but as an ex-developer said, nobody knew what the f*** they were doing. And it seems like that sentiment has tended to carry on. It seemed like they were getting a little bit out of hand, thinking that this would be a small expansion, but then being told that it should be something bigger. The developers realizing that they didn't actually know how they were going to do that, and then heading on a downhill slope to 2023. The game was supposed to release 3-4 years ago now, delayed time and time again. After its initial announcement back just a couple years after Assassin's Creed's release in 2013, we all thought that it would be here by now. Or at least, that's what we were told. Development apparently has been a managerial mess. We know that. That's very clear. Not just from the development team by saying that, but according to insiders, that the management would be changed over and over again. They'd be told to make this into a standalone expansion that would rival the likes of the Assassin's Creed games that came before, and they wouldn't know where to go with it. So they'd be fired. Someone else would come in with a new suggestion, they wouldn't like it, so they'd be fired. There'd be no coherency and no real direction to head in. It has come out that this game is costing upwards of $120 million, one of the most expensive games, and, well, let's just say that's not a drop in the pond. This needs to work for them, but it's not just the money that is stopping Ubisoft from cancelling it. You see, we've seen numerous cancellations of games in the past. The Avatar game, the Splinter Cell VR, Ubisoft cancelling things left, right and centre, layoffs happening after controversies and loss of money. So why is Skull and Bones, the game that seems to be costing them so much money, the game that seems to be causing them all the issues because they're delaying it over and over again, why is that still going? Well, funnily enough, it comes down to the Singaporean government. According to sources, the Singaporean government is helping keep the game afloat with really generous subsidies, trying to keep this title within their country to make sure that, it's giving them money and people work within the country itself. All of this money, all these subsidies given by the Singaporean government, however, don't come without a price. Conditions reportedly include hiring people at Ubisoft's Singapore studio and the studio releasing original IPs in the next few years. Yeah, that doesn't seem like it's going well. But that's the main point. This game has been funded so much by a national government with the clause that it has to release at some point. So yeah, you might think it seems like Ubisoft have gone so much into this money hole that they can't cancel it. And you'd half be right. But it's mostly because allegedly not all of that money is theirs. When they announced this most recent delay, they tried to soften the blow somewhat. Not that it really worked, but they tried to bring out a little bit of new gameplay. And to be fair, I actually don't hate what we've been shown here. That last bit of gameplay that was shown a few months ago, an absolute tragedy, don't get me wrong. But this most recent one has actually got some decent merit to it. I don't know exactly what they changed as the last one, but graphically it looks way better, looks way less arcadey, and there seems to be a few less cutscene-y things, and it seems to be actually like you can walk around on land, something that people were getting annoyed because we'd been hinted at it, but we didn't know if you actually could do it. Well, it seems like it's confirmed that we can. There are still a few red flags, however. Going up to attack a fort, there's no longer a loading screen, you just attack it, but there is a cutscene where your crew jump off and do most of the work without you. That's still a bit of a shame. You have to stay on the ship while essentially the AI go and plunder a town. Off to this. What is the point? Either we can do it or don't let it be a thing at all. That's really annoying. It also shows that they've been very, very selective of what they're actually trying to release here. That last bit of gameplay that we had a few months ago, as mentioned, was a disaster. Not just in my opinion, but I think most people had such negative responses towards it. Upgrading ships with weird flamethrowers and spikes, looking like a microtransaction heaven. Having a weird harvesting resource animation where you sit on your boat and little numbers pop off a tree like a 17-year-old popping pills at Glastonbury. And that's the thing. Whilst this has had much better responses, it does seem it's so tactical to soften the blow of another delay and being incredibly selective at what we're actually shown here. And this brings me on to my main point. What is Skull and Bones attempting to be? It's very clear that this is never going to be cancelled. I mean, if it was, it would have been cancelled by now. So the game is definitely coming. Whether it's in the next year or whether it's in 6 years' time, that's another question entirely. But they've spent so much money. They've had one of the most lucrative deals with a government that they can't let it go now. And I'm assuming that that's not going to change anytime soon. This is 10 years later, and there are some cool elements to it. It has an amazing basis of a fantastic franchise that came before it, but it all just seems like little gems surrounded by red flags. If this was someone trying to pick you up at the club, you'd probably pull out the pepper spray right now. So why are we still hanging around? Why are we still thinking of buying this game? Well, I guess it's just the car crash theory. You can't stop looking at it no matter how bad it gets. In fact, the worse it gets. The more delays that happen and the more news that come out of some terrible managerial roles within the company, the more you feel like you have to talk about it. But in all honesty, there is a team behind this. Real people, real developers that do have a passion, that want to make something really fantastic. Very talented graphic designers, sound designers, music composers, coders, asset painters, all to create something that they are passionate about. But it seems like this is just another thing that started out as a passion project with people that really wanted to create something special. Then money got involved, and in the case of Skull and Bones, governments got involved. That kept this game from ever being cancelled, but keeping the developers in its grasp by holding it to certain standards that they wouldn't be able to release it without. This has the possibility of still being decent. Of course, that never goes away, and every delay means that they're still trying to fix things and work on it. But it is still red flag after red flag, and, well, how many do you need before you gotta find a new banner?